Welcome to the sponsor section of Dim Sum Days. So, this is a sponsor segment by the Washington Department of Health. So this is what happened. Amanda and I were hanging out with a friend in a socially distant, appropriate place. We had to walk through their house to get into their backyard. We had masks on the whole time, right? But what happened was that friend tested positive for COVID-19 about a week later. We got these push notifications a couple days later from Washington Notify. And so we wanted to talk about these exposure notifications that we got on our iPhones. We both received one. Mm-hmm. And this is a technology that you opt into here in Washington State, whether you have an iPhone or an Android. And what it is it's using Bluetooth technology that is private and secure. And it will sense if you are within 6 feet of another person who also has the app turned on. Mm-hmm. And if that person tests positive for COVID, they pretty much can check a box or opt in, and it'll send a notification out to everyone else that came within a 6-foot proximity to that other person's phone. And so we got it. And it was just a notification like, hey, someone you've been near is tested positive for COVID-19. Here's some steps to go take care of it. So we got these notifications. We made sure to go and get COVID-19 tests for ourselves. We ended up testing negative. We did do kind of 2 weeks in our own personal quarantine just in case to be safe. But it was so great to get this WA Notify notification that said, hey, you were in,
potential exposure.
And that was really relieving to see, that it worked, right? We turned these on a while back.
Yeah. I remember having a conversation with some old work friends, and we talked about this new iPhone feature came out, and we all have iPhones, so this new iPhone feature came out, and we're so excited about it, and we tried to turn it on, but it hadn't yet come to Washington. And so finally, when Washington added that feature on, we all went and immediately turned it on, because we were like, well, I want to know if someone potentially exposes us. And it was really reassuring to have that be told, hey, you will be notified, but it's all anonymous, right? You're not going to have any information that is associated with your potential exposure, or if you're the one that potentially exposed.
Yeah. And it's really easy to turn on, so we definitely recommend, after we had experience using it, we recommend that you turn it on as well. If you have an iPhone, you just got to go to settings, and then if you scroll all the way to the bottom, there's an exposure notification setting. If you have an Android, download the WA exposure notification app and turn that on, and you will be all set. It's great. You get the notification. It tells you the time when you were, which then you can reference back I was in the grocery store that day, or I was at my friend's house that day, or I went to dinner that day. Mm-hmm. And as time goes on, even though we're all going to be getting the vaccine, I think it's still great to have on just in case, because people are still going to test positive, and you're going to want to know that information. How it only works, though, is if we all turn it on, right? If I'm sitting next to Amanda and she doesn't have it on, my exposure notification is not going to go off. Yeah. So it's important that we get as many people to opt in to be providing this data, because then it helps all of us stay safe. Some of the things that I wanted to clarify, because one of the concerns that everyone has is regarding privacy and what's happening with my data. So they base this exposure notification off the Google Apple exposure notification technology, and it safeguards your privacy. So the big thing you got to know is they don't collect any of your data or share your location or any of your personal information with Google, Apple, or the Washington Department of Health. So you're not really giving up any of that personal information, and it will keep everything private for you. It's actually been a complication for them to get a hold of us, because they don't have access to any of those information. And we just want to encourage you, please, if you haven't already, turn on the WA Notified so you can protect your neighbors and your friends, and especially as we're going to be getting more out into society, I think it is very helpful, very beneficial when we got the notification. And we had already known about the exposure. Our friend was nice enough to tell us already, but to get the push notification also was just a reminder this does work. And if we all are opt-in to helping each other share that information, I think is great. And if you ever test positive, I'm sure you're going to want to help the people that maybe you came in exposure with to know.
Yeah, and it helps my anxiety, right? Like I especially like after the beginning of COVID, right? You always have this anxiety of like, what if I have it? What if I don't have it? I don't want to go to the grocery store and expose someone or have them exposed to me, right? And so this kind of help alleviates that. Like, hey, we'll let you know if you opt in, right? To any possible potential exposures or not, right? It's kind of nice to not be notified. It's kind of like, oh, okay, like I'm doing all right.
Yeah, until we got the first one, we really didn't know if it was working or not.
Yeah, I kind of forgot, to be honest.
Yeah, so did I. And then we got it and was like, oh, like this is working, and that was helpful. And it was nice just to know like this was the date, which then we confirmed like yes, that's when our friend told us, and everything was all safe. They got through it as well. This was well over a month ago. Turn on those Washington exposure notifications if you haven't done so already. Easy on your iPhone. Download the app if you have an Android. It was great for us. We really gave us peace of mind that we got the notification.
This makes me want to insert the Shia LaBeouf gif of
Just do it! Don't let your dreams be dreams.
Thank you for the Washington Department of Health. Once again, that was a sponsor segment. They did pay us to talk about it, but we genuinely experienced the notifications, and that's kind of how this all came together. So thank you very much for being a sponsor of the show. We appreciate that.